Get in, nerds. We are playing Burden of Command. We are going into what I assume is another training mission, but we'll find out. We'll do the aid our men thing first. I got a lot of loyalty, but not a lot of prestige. Can't give myself any. Well, I can give myself more experience, but that won't be optimal because I got a lot more loyalty than prestige. Um, so we got quite a bit of experience kicking around here now in these units. They've seen a lot of action. So first, I think my priority is to get units over the line. So this squad's at 76. We'll throw some extra their way. And then, do I focus on bringing up stragglers? I think yes. I want to give these mortars a little bit more experienced. And that's going to provide a lot of dividends. Let's see. Yeah, and I think we got 6 more prestige, so I got 3 more squads I can bump. We'll do this squad, and this squad. You know, I'm a Hearts of Iron 4 player, so I'm always sort of thinking of it as there's more. You know, there's a large benefit to getting units up to one or two levels of experience. All right, let's go on forward. Nice, good quote. War determines not who is right, but who is left. Bertrand Russell. Tank country. Oh boy, I'm gonna love this episode. 26th September, Virginia, 1942, Virginia, United States. So the following day, oh boy, this map is ginormous.
So the 6 of us go downtown Bloomington, Indiana, for Indiana University. We're all going to join the Marines. Well, I still only weighed about 123 or 124 pounds, and I was 5'11", 6 foot tall. And the recruiter sort of hum-hawed around and said, well, we're filled up right now. You come back in 6 months. So we were all of us were tall, skinny, I guess. So we all went downtown, a couple blocks downtown Bloomington, walked in the recruiting office, Army, sat down, and the recruiter just gave us a piece of paper and says, sign here. That simple.
Yeah, higher standards for the Marines than the Army. That was pretty common back then because there'd been a depression on since 1929 at this point, so 11 years. Enormous rates of malnutrition in the United States as a result of this, and like even though the United States was at the time, I believe, the biggest food producer in the world, and I think still is. All right. Saturday morning, trouble in the barracks. Specifically, 6 cartons of K rations were found stashed in the ceiling. No cigarettes, no candies, no biscuits, Sergeant Bennett notes as the two of you sort through the cardboard cartons. They left the meat cans. Guess they weren't hungry for anything but sweets and cigs. Someone will have to answer for this theft, and no one has stepped forward to take responsibility for it. Okay. The men will be punished as a whole platoon. Punish the squad nearest the stolen cans. Investigate further. Good thing I didn't steal these cans. Good thing I didn't see these cans. No one will be punished. I definitely don't want to. I definitely don't want to just not punish anyone. We can't operate. We're not. This is not a hotel here. It's the Army. I'm going to investigate further. You conduct a quick investigation looking for candy wrappers and biscuit crumbs, but no such clues surface, and soon enough you're forced to wrap things up. An inquiry might follow, but that could take weeks to resolve. Alright. No. I'm not asking for an inquiry. And I'm not punishing one squad arbitrarily. But we're not enforcing discipline. Everyone gets punished. That's the way it is. No, it's there's a war on. You can't be stealing K rations. Stealing is a crime. The men are well fed from the mess halls. Taking K rations, field rations was completely unnecessary. The thieves just didn't want to pay for anything from the commissary. And since the men undoubtedly know who did this, none of them have come forward, they can be punished together. Schedule full pack march for tonight, Saturday. Heavily punished, gain some experience, lose some trust. Okay. Additional guard duties overnight, schedule additional... the men are punished, so the men will gain a little experience, trust -5. Or schedule a heavy fire watch overnight. Some of the men will gain a very little XP, the men are lightly punished. I don't want to sacrifice any trust on this. But a chunk of experience is worthwhile. No. I'm not gonna go crazy on this. I'm not gonna sacrifice trust on this. We'll schedule a heavy fire watch overnight. The platoon shuffles their collective feet as you announce the extra fire watch shifts. If the thieves want to move any stolen goods tonight, then perhaps they'll think twice about it. Naturally, Bennett assigns the worst of the shifts, the middle one, to the likely suspects. We'll lose a good sleep because of bad thieves, Morris mutters under his breath to his pal. Yeah, hiding the cans up in the ceiling never works for long, Patterson replies. Idiots. Well, you know, it is what it is. We're not running a hotel here. It's 1942 and there's a war on. 28th September, 1942, Monday. Alright, so, eventful weekend. Come the start of the next week, you and Bennett watch the men march past while Sergeant Grant calls cadence. There are 2 lean rows to review, their full packs and rifles swaying beneath the colorful canopy. A fine Virginia day for a march, with blue skies and a cooling wind. I've been tough but fair, and it shows. We've come a long way. This is just the end of the beginning. We've come a long way. You've fallen beside them, your own gait matching their own. Along the nearby road, you see the other officers of Nickel Company taking in the shade of a big oak tree, their own platoons resting nearby. Can't say either way, Wilson says to Dearborn and Stern, his voice just barely edging over the marching song. You never know until you hear that first bullet snap. I'm not going to eavesdrop. I'm going to head over. Dearborn and Wilson fall silent as you approach. Stern meets your gaze and shrugs. The coughs of an engine breaks up. Okay, alright, so I didn't get to hear the rest of that. The coughs of an engine breaks up the trump of boots as a tank in the dark green army rattles down the road. And dark army green rattles down the road. Your men split off to either side and salute. Perched atop the oncoming tank is your company commander, Captain Lamb. He returns the salute of your men, and then once the tank clatters to a halt, clambers down. Lieutenant, the Army is fixing to provide additional training for Nickel Company. There will be an armored integration exercise, Captain Lamb says in his customary Texas drawl. And your men have been chosen to fight alongside actual tanks. Excellent, sir. Glad someone remembered about tanks, sir. Wait for him to go on. Glad someone remembered about tanks, sir. What is this? This is an M3 Stuart. Ah, yes, the Zippo. Famously called the Zippo by United States Army troops because they have a tendency to catch fire when you shoot at them. Glad someone remembered about tanks, sir. Helps that half Fox Company came down with a rash and we were next in line, Lamb says. Your record recommended your platoon to this training, and I admire how you kept a firm grasp on them when need be. There's been some talk about having you train more platoons here in the States, but there are plenty of other officers for that. Let's grip the hide on this one. The men are to march over for a final field problem. You'll guide this beast to the training ground to get an idea of what a tank can do. Now pay special attention to the methods of our steely brethren, for they are a strange people. Now pay special attention to the methods of our steely brethren, for they are a strange people. There's your Texas drawl. That's all the Texas drawl I'm going to do for now. Look at this tanker. I heard that, a voice calls out from the hatch of the tank, barely topping the idling engine. A moment later, a scruffy tanker pops his head out and stares at you, then Lamb. That's Sergeant Lintz, Lamb says, and neatly hides a grin. See you on the field. Lamb heads towards the gathering of Nickel Company officers, stepping beneath the shade of a big oak tree. But he's the boss, good division of labor. At least I won't have to hunt for the place. Without a map or directions, the platoon might arrive late and the exercise opportunity might be wasted. You hop aboard the tank and take up a position behind the turret. There is, after all, no room for an extra man. The tanker, wearing recently sewn sergeant stripes, idly taps the steel that virtually surrounds him. Okay, where to, Lieutenant? Sergeant Lintz says. The white stenciled name on the side of the turret reads Bandit. Our initial objective is across the river there, but you might want to take the scenic view. Let's go. Tell me about your tank. Tell me about your tank. Well, the Army calls this an M3 light tank. Most people call it the Stuart. We have our own name for her. But what's important is that the Bandit here has a 37mm cannon, 3 machine guns, and burns gas like a hot fox in a henhouse. Across the way, an umpire signals you. Time to start. The Stuart was not the world's greatest tank, although early on in Africa they did have excellent results against a group of I want to say ME-109s that were on the ground. American tankers showed up in Stuarts and blasted away at the planes and destroyed a bunch of them. It was a great moment. The Stuart is fast, but it's, compared to most armor cannons, the 37mm cannon, it's like an 1.5-inch gun or something. It's basically a pea shooter. It's not a great tank gun. Obviously, it's you'd rather have that than a rifle, but it's not doing much against an enemy tank. But these are light tanks. They're for recon and maneuver action. Light tanks are good if your enemy has no tanks, but the applications are limited. Obviously, my experience is as Hearts of Iron 4 player, but I've also done a certain amount of reading on the subject. I've read the Liberation trilogy by Rick Atkinson, so that's my primary source. Anyway, let's go. Commence the exercise. Time for a Mississippi drive, Sergeant Lintz says, and pats the rear of the cupola. Hang on tight to your chessboard. We'll be taking a few curves. Hang on. Unit personalization reminder. To personalize a unit, right-click on the portrait. Okay, cool. This is good information. Alright, I've been waiting on that. Click the edit button. Change the platoon's insignia, but not the name of portrait. Squads can be renamed. Current mindsets and details are also displayed. A tank lurches forward. Your teeth begin to rattle. Lintz certainly wasn't wrong. Okay, where's my... Alright, so... Move that metal. Left-click selects all units in a hex. Right-click enacts. Tanks can't pass through heavy terrain unless they follow a road. Oh, this boy is fast. Swamp is utterly impassable. Tanks can't pass through rocks. Tanks are fine on roads. Can't go through these forests at all. Getting into water is right out. Motor on over here. So, let's use waypoints. Alternatively, yeah. I should look at this thing's stats. Hey, you. Max range weapon 15, movement points 8, tired no, lives 4, exact XP 100, combat fatigue 0. Org's first platoon A armor. Interesting. Alright. And what are you? I don't know. Oh, interesting. Okay, I have to... I'm riding the tank, so I can't order just it. Alright, interesting. Let's go. The driver eases into neutral and lets the bandit coast to a halt. Sergeant Lintz pops back up and then gestures broadly to the field of green in front of you. Welcome to the range, LT, Sergeant Lintz calls out over the din of the engine. In a few minutes, we get to take some shots for real. The bandit's little 37mm gun might seem like it's better suited for hunting squirrels, but it's got quite the kick. Got a few personal questions for you. If I'm me, LT, I get paid by the hour, Lintz says in such utterly serious tones that even a civilian would know he's joking. Why is your tank called Bandit? Why is your tank called Bandit? Is your gunner a good shot? Lamb said you were busted down. Never mind. Lamb said you were busted down. It was just a little misunderstanding, Sergeant Lynn says. Turns out we weren't supposed to fire that many rounds on the range. Oh well. The Army does seem to have been short on a lot of things. Grenade training with a potato certainly was memorable. Why is your tank called the Bandit? How does anyone get a nickname? Sergeant Lynch says, with just the hint of a smile. Somebody gives it to you. Is your gunner a good shot? Let's say he's had plenty of practice. Sergeant Lynch says, we saw to that. I bet you did. Alright, enough chatting. Sure, LT, Lynch says. You call the shots right. Get to the firing range. How do you want this? Lynch says. I've given over to plenty of officers, and they all learn differently. So who are you really? Alright, what kind of leader am I? There are 18 different mindsets the leader might employ to help him navigate the ever-present tension between men and mission, but often boils over into the crucibles of war. I know what a crucible is. Alright, tell me about mindsets. There are three are aggressive. Doctrine, idealism, and zeal. 3 are preventative. Cunning, discipline, and caution. The other 3 are centered specifically on men or the mission, compassion or professionalism. So cunning, this is idealism. Cunning, no, caution, cunning. Discipline, idealism, zeal, doctrine. Compassion, and professionalism. Alright, those are my guesses. Tell me about doctrine, idealism, and zeal. Doctrine pursues solutions via army methods. Idealism focuses on inspiring the men. Zeal seeks to overcome trouble with vigorous efforts. Tell me about... Okay, alright. So, zeal is kind of can-do attitude. Idealism is big speeches and whatnot. And doctrine is by the book. Okay. Tell me about cunning, discipline, and caution. Cunning adapts and exploits new situations. Discipline focuses on regimentation and training to maintain unit cohesion. Caution seeks to prevent the worst from happening. Compassion and professionalism. Compassion compels the men to great things by the bonds of fellowship. Professionalism achieves success by utilizing the Army systems. Choose my initial mindsets. Okay, alright. I see. So this wheel is important. Alright, because you can only move a certain amount. Yeah, attainable mindsets from here. Caution, compassion, idealism, and zeal. Unobtainable mindsets, discipline. This is discipline. This is professionalism. This is cunning. I'm guessing. Okay. A leader's primary mindset influences what other mindsets they can learn. 2 to the left of it on the wheel and 2 to the right. That means a given leader may invest in only 5 mindsets total. My primary mindset will be very important. Max 5 out of 8 mindsets. No leader can be everything. Each mindset has a passive ability, either an active ability or a company ability. If a leader possesses a mindset value greater than 2, then that mindset's abilities become enabled. A lieutenant may employ a single active ability of any type only once per scenario. A captain may employ an active ability for each mindset that is enabled. Passive abilities may trigger repeatedly for any leader under certain circumstances. Company abilities trigger at the end of a scenario. Mindsets are an investment. Low value mindsets are just chrome. A captain with many mindsets is particularly important. Only mindsets rated 3 or above are enabled. Everything else is just chrome. 3 or above, greater than 2. Those mean the same thing. Brain. Brain bad. Brain bad, friends. Mindsets can have a value no higher than 5. Furthermore, no more than 3 total mindsets may be enabled with a value greater than 2. For example, Lieutenant Dearborn might have these mindsets available to him. Idealism 0, not enabled. Zeal 2, not enabled. This value is largely just chrome. Cunning 5, primary and enabled. Professionalism 4, enabled. Discipline 3, enabled. 5 possible mindsets up to 3 enabled. Each leader can be very different. How do mindsets gain value? Undergoing a crucible may allow the leader to acquire... Okay, alright, so that was a technical term. Okay, sure. Nice. Very good. Alright. The further away the choices from their primary mindset, the higher the cost in combat fatigue. Combat fatigue will be discussed once you enter combat. Okay, so this game's got like a stress system. Interesting. Alright, well, truthfully, just for the meme, I'm considering going with discipline because Hearts of Iron. But let's consider them all in a row and see what they look like. Consider doctrine, the Army way. The doctrine mindset focuses on a set of understandings as laid out by the Army. They are often masters of known technical problems and only stumble when the chaos of combat throws them a curveball. Active ability by the book. Your men know the drill. The officer and their immediate reports gain an extra order. For a captain, this means lieutenants. For a lieutenant, this means their squads. Ew, that's pretty good. But it's one use. It's not every turn. It's one use per scenario. Well rehearsed. Occasionally, if a unit with the officer is about to become spent, the unit instead regains an order and up to 3 suppression is removed due to the steadying influence of their routine. Doctrinaire, however, the officer gains XP, 15% slower. Okay, alright, so we're picking now. Let me consider other mindsets. Because this is a really bad debuff. Okay, so all these doctrines are going to have a debuff associated with them, or I assume they will. Consider compassion. Elite esprit. Armies without motivated men, are brittle in battle. If the men bond together, especially with their leader, then they can move heaven and earth to survive and overcome. Band of brothers. Company ability. Compassion can deepen trust and reduce stress. Loyalty points are plus 15% for a lieutenant, minimum 1, and plus 20% for a captain, minimum 2. Increases to plus 20 or 30% at level 5. Each such leader adds. However, compassion comes at a personal cost, increased combat fatigue by 20% for this leader. Comrades in arms passive ability on occasion. As a squad moving with this leader regains a casualty. A straggler is returned or a light wound is overcome. That is extremely strong, but I don't know how bad combat fatigue is going to be. Let me consider other mindsets. Consider caution, risk not. The caution mindset tries to limit losses and thereby win engagement through making the fewest mistakes. Leaders with this primary mindset tend to see tactical problems as chess-like maneuvers. Sometimes they're even right. Caution prevents. Send scouting party. Active ability. Select a reachable hex. You are guaranteed to reveal all enemies of the targeted hex and all adjacent hexes. Oh, that's really good. You also get a normal LLS check from the targeted hex as if unit were present. Your scouts are out there. However, if enemies are adjacent to or worse in the hex, a friendly unit may take casualties. Scouts lost. Okay, so it's not no risk. Sixth Sense passive ability. Occasionally a concealed enemy that has not yet been seen will be revealed. Alright, let me consider other mindsets. Hearts of Iron. Battle is brutal. There is no flinching from that, and the goal of the discipline-based leader is to make it so that their soldiers will not break and run from the inferno of combat. Pour it on, active ability. The officer's men know how to gain fire superiority. They acquire a significantly enhanced chance to win initiative akin to flanking and improved fire effect akin to from above. The men also become undaunted when receiving fire. However, this costs the squad 2 orders to execute. Unyielding, passive ability. On occasion, if receiving fire, the officer and men will first become undaunted and then rally for free after the conclusion. Discipline. Wow. Discipline seems really, really strong. Higher chance to win initiative is just broadly really, really solid. Costs the squad 2 orders to execute, sure, but shooting already costs 2 orders. It means weaker machine guns. That's what it means. Alright. But it's an active ability, so I just gotta remember how to use it on machine guns most of the time. Okay. So discipline seems very good. That's one I'm really thinking about. We consider other mindsets. I wish I could see the wheel and be able to mouse over them and see which one's which. Because I'm really picking 5 possible mindsets, not like I'm not super so okay, so this one's discipline. This one's compassion. This one's doctrine. And then this one's caution. Alright, now we're looking at these 4. So this one's going to be professionalism, cunning, zeal, and idealism. Alright. Consider professionalism. Quality rises. They say the army runs on coffee, but its leadership runs on reputation. If you want your men to get the best, you have to show that they're worth it to your superiors. That means cultivating relationships and working the system. The squeaky wheel doesn't get the grease, it gets replaced. Interesting. Influence. Cultivating the respect of the superiors means prestige points are at plus 15% for an LT. And 20% for a captain, increased to 20 and 30 at level 5. Each such leader adds. However, the focus on superiors means less time for the men. Officer gains trust or restraint. Sustained barrage, passive ability. You gain more artillery support. On occasion, off-map artillery you've spotted for is not withdrawn when it would have been. This one's very tempting because there's more uses for prestige than there is for... Or no, it's not loyalty. But I have a shortage of prestige vis-a-vis loyalty. Well, that's partially because I've been sacrificing the mission to keep the men alive. Let me consider other mindsets. Consider Cunning, the sly fox. Cunning adapts. The direct approach will take objectives. The indirect approach will win battles. The last war should have taught everyone that much. Get what you want, but don't pay full price. Infiltrate. Active ability. Activate to creep 2 hexes instead of 1. Oh my god, that's amazing. You know, that's when concealment, brush or smoke, and then becomes hidden. However, new enemies are not spotted as effectively during this activation. Prepare ambush, passive ability. Occasionally the officer will spot an ambush opportunity at the end of a move, become hidden, and maintain at least 1 order afterwards as they undertake any action. That seems really good. Let me see those mindsets again. Showing the other mindsets. I'm just getting a... Okay, so Cunning seems really good. Professionalism seems really good. Was it Discipline? This is Discipline. Yeah. Alright. Consider other mindsets. Show me the other mindsets. Alright, so I'm looking at this band right here. Consider zeal will overcome. In adversity, soldiers want to be led. The worse the situation, the more they need that leadership. And if you give that to them, then there is nothing that will stop them. Follow me, active ability. Launch a highly enhanced assault. Take no suppression, gains the significant advantage flanking. Casualties can still occur, especially if the unit acts rashly, for example, losing the open versus unsuppressed enemies. Morale checks are still required. Berserk passive ability. A unit that suffers a casualty may go berserk and attempt to assault the nearest enemy. Stronger than follow me, but just as vulnerable. Ooh. Berserk seems like a giant liability. Let me consider other mindsets. This, I'll definitely do a run where I play with zeal, but let me consider other mindsets. Finally, consider idealism, beacon in the dark. Men fight for many things, money, power, prestige, but they also fight for an ideal that you can't kill ideas, not really. And if you stoke that ideal, then the men will fight through immense privation. Grandstand officer ability. The officer stands up within weapons range of an enemy unit. This outrageous and courageous action rallies all friendly units within 3 hexes and LOS. It will also retain at least one order. However, there's a 15% chance to become a casualty. Inspire, passive ability. Usually the officer stacks the friendly unit with greater than 4 suppression. Rally them, restore an order, then bolster them for free. Okay. Idealism seems good. Grandstand is memey, but I like it. Alright. Let me see the map. So, I think I'm going to go with Cunning, because that gets me access to professionalism and, or, discipline and idealism. Alright. Cunning. I adapt. Move when your enemy expects an attack. Attack when they expect movement. When your leadership adapts to the shape of the battle, then you become the battle. That will do for now. Alright. Target practice on the way, Sergeant Lynch says, and gives his driver a nudge with his foot to shift back into gear. Best part of the day for us. Not so great for the trucks, but not everyone can be a winner. Direct us up to the course and we'll blow something up. Alright, we did a lot of looking into disciplines and looking into mindsets and stuff like that. There's a whole situation going on in this battle. With that having been said, I think I'm going to cut the episode here. I've been running really long episodes, but I need to be more efficient about my time. So, that is all we've got time for this episode, my nerds. I have had fun. I hope you all have had fun, and I will see you on the other side.